Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of my global show. I'm Sree Sreenivasan, and I said global, not daily global show, because after 250 episodes, we moved to a 1 to 2 times a week format. We are delighted that you can be with us. It's the same show where we cover various aspects of the COVID crisis. We cover the health, economics, racial justice, as well as creativity during the pandemic. Today, we're talking about creating a culture of diversity, and we're going to meet Rohana Mirza Pandya and Sandhya Jain-Patel, who have launched Sandhya Rohi Culture Partners, a diversity advisory firm for the culture sector. Learn what it takes to improve diversity, equity, and inclusion across industries, and what it's like to launch a business in the middle of a pandemic. We're going to give you a chance to ask them anything. We're live right now on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. Please share with your friends and family. They can watch live or watch later. You'll meet Ruhi and Sandhya in just a minute. Hi, everyone. I'm Sree. Greetings and welcome to the show. If you haven't watched before, or if you watched more than 200 of our episodes, it's always about trying to understand what the heck is going on in the world. And we will be live 1 to 2 times a week, but our archives are all available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Freenet. I'm the Marshall Loeb Visiting Professor of Digital Innovation at Stony Brook School of Journalism and the co-founder of Digimentors, a social, digital, and virtual events consulting company. We're always looking to talk to folks about virtual events. If you have one, talk to us. We've done events for 50 people and 100,000 people, and we bet your event is somewhere between those two numbers, and we'd love to geek out with you about your event. If you haven't seen our numbers from before, this is in our first 240 plus episodes. We had more than 440 guests, including 249 women, and we're upping that ratio tonight from 72 cities and 20 countries, including the chief scientist of the World Health Organization. We're in partnership with Scroll Global and Scroll.in, and we're so grateful to our sponsors and to our producers, Rose Horowitz at Rose Horowitz 31 on Twitter. She's always live tweeting, and Vandana Menon, Vandana_Menon. Please follow both of them, and please thank them for their incredible work for 251 episodes as of tonight. All right, are you ready to talk about culture? Are you ready to talk about diversity and also to learn what it's like to launch a business in the middle of the pandemic? We're going to give you a chance right now to meet Ruhi and Sandhya, and we are so grateful to both of them. Again, their new company is called Sandhya Rohi Culture Partners. Their website is src-partners.com. And what you're seeing on the screen is the article in Deadline Hollywood, the big publication that covered their launch of their diversity advisory firm. So with that, let me say hello to Sandhya and Ruhi. Hello.
How are you doing, Sree? Thanks for having us.
We're grateful that both of you could join us. My first question to our guests is always the same. How are you? Where are you? And how has your family been handling the pandemic? I know both of you have children, and so it adds to the drama of the last 250 plus days. So Sandhya, let's start with you.
Thanks, Sree. I'm doing great, and all things considered. I mean, one of the things that I try to do, as everyone says, is to establish a gratitude practice. So I'm grateful for our continued health and roof over our heads. Our roof is here in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and my husband is still gainfully employed, touch wood, and our two kids are doing mostly remote school. So it's been really great. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, and please say hi to the great Samir Patel. He is a wonderful science journalist and writer who I've known for almost 2 decades, and so it's great to know that you're all doing great. So thanks. Let's go now to Ruhi and ask her the same questions.
So we're doing great. Thanks again, Sree, for having us on the show. We've known each other for a long time, and I think almost 20 years as well with Gitesh and ourselves. But Yeah, so we're doing all right. I think that we're doing all right in this pandemic, and we're in Brooklyn, and our kids are doing well, so it's all good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. We should say that your husband, Gitesh Pandya, as you mentioned, he and I have known each other for a long time, and we'll be talking about the company you both co-founded, Box Office Guru, and the amazing work that you folks did. So let's talk all about this company. Congratulations on launching a business in the pandemic. I know a little bit about what that's like. We took our business, which had been around for a long time, and went into the virtual events business because of the pandemic. And so we've learned a lot, but our launch was not covered in Deadline Hollywood. And we are very, very excited for both of you. And so when we are relaunching our show, we were live every single day for 250 days until last Sunday, and then we took a few days off. And when we were coming back, we're so delighted that we're coming back with both of you. So, Sandhya, you want to, since your name is first on this, I also want to hear the drama of, was there a coin toss, or what did you do to decide what the name of the company is going to be? But we'll hand it over to you to explain all of this, Sandhya.
Sure. Well, Ruhi and I have been in and around each other's culture spheres for the last 20 years. So it seems like all of us have this 20-year commitment to each other, which is kind of nice. She and I have been talking about this specific idea about creating a firm that provides cultural advisory for media, entertainment, communications, mostly one-way to client type of stuff for a long time, before the pandemic, last couple of years at least. So when it came time for us to do this, I just said, hey, what do you think? She's like, yes, let's call it SRC. And I'm like, okay. I think maybe actually, Ruhi, I didn't think about this until just now, but maybe RSC would have been risk. So that could have worked for us both ways, like mitigating risk or creating risk. I don't know. But in any case, we landed with SRC. And
Royal Shakespeare Company was already taken. That's why.
There you go.
I said SRC first is because I love SRK. And I was like, SRC, SRK. I know it's weird.
So let's explain, global audience who mostly will know SRK, but Shah Rukh Khan.
Oh my God, those ads! Wow!
And this is how small the world is. Thanks to Gitesh and Ruhi, about 12 years ago, I interviewed Shah Rukh Khan, and that show is still, having done these 251 episodes. That episode is still one of the most popular things I've ever done on YouTube. So that was.
That's amazing. Did you get to interview him in person?
Yeah, it was in the old days. So it was him and Kajol in an interview sitting together, and this was before all this technology, so I had a flip phone, not a flip phone. It was called a flip camera. It was like a camera that had a built-in USB connection. You might remember that, and then you had to do that, and we did it. We had a precursor of this show was a audio-based live interview show that we had for many years, and so they were live on audio, and then this video was recorded, and then we uploaded it, and all of that. So I can see the SRK value.
I remember that press day well, Sree. I had to run it by myself because that day, Gitesh got food poisoning. Oh my God. So I had to run that day by myself, and I just delivered via C-section 3 weeks before that. So it was insane. I will never forget that day.
I wish Ruhi, you and I had been working together more closely at that time. I would have definitely stepped in.
You would have sacrificed and made that
huge sacrifice. Huge, yes.
It was for the movie My Name Is Khan.
It was.
That big shark. And one of the things that I remember is that he would keep getting stopped at airports. Shah Rukh Khan, Indian fans who couldn't get over this. They're like, how could this man keep getting stopped because of his name? He kept getting stopped at all the airports in the US every time. And he talked about this. One day he was on his way to Yale for a presentation, and he lands and then gets like stuck for 3 hours at the airport and then goes to Yale. You remember all this, Ruhi, right?
I do. I mean, this is like the progression of like how things in South Asians were at that time, post 9/11. It was kind of nuts.
It really was. All right, so let's get back to
let's get back to it. We just got sidetracked there.
It's a good tangent.
Yeah.
So we talked about this, and I think we actually decided to formally, do this together in January and February of this year. So it was before we went into lockdown and before the pandemic started. And actually, when the pandemic hit, we were sort of like, okay, we can reset, and we thought about it. And we realized that actually, it turns out for our business, it's actually the best time to be launching in many ways, because so many of the clients that we're targeting are studio and production teams and houses. And now they have to pause, right? Most places are not able to shoot, or if they shoot, there's a case and they have to go into lockdown and all this. So it's literally arrested development for all of these projects. And at that time, during this year, as everyone knows, especially who watch your show, we've had the murders of George Floyd and others, the Black Lives Matters movement. DEI has come to the forefront of every sector globally, or at least in New York. And what we've realized is, especially with studio productions, that they need to go back to the drawing board a little bit and look at their projects that are in arrested development and see if anything has to be changed. That's where we step in. We're cultural producers, and what that means is that we are here to ensure that the DEI plan is baked in to the entire production from beginning to end, and that any cultural nuances and sensitivities are addressed early on so that they don't have to be tweaked or spun or anything else in the editing room or post.
So let's understand a couple of terms. By the way, this is that article about your launch. Right you. There under breaking news about Matthew McConaughey, I see there. Let's talk about DEI. It's a term that many of our audience members will know, but it's not necessarily globally used by everybody. So let's understand that.
Well, I'm going to toss that over to Ruhi, because she is the expert DEI in our partnership here.
Sure, I'll take that. I mean, I got my DEI certification at Cornell, so I do have some sort of training in this field. And I feel like I've been working in DEI before it was called DEI for years and years. So let's define some terms then. I guess diversity, I would say, would be a uniqueness of an individual, like how you could define diversity as race, gender, able-bodied, and so forth. Whereas inclusion means that that person feels like an insider within the project or an organization. You're included into this world. And then equity is when you're leveling the playing field for everybody. Everybody can come to the table at the same level. You might take somebody a little bit more to get there, so you might have to give a little more resources to that person, but that's how you create equity for all. So those are the terms that make up the DEI acronyms. So, and I think representation is another term that you'll hear us saying a lot, and that's meaning you're seeing yourself either on screen or on stage or within any sort of media.
And what about cultural producer? So what exactly is that?
So a cultural producer, I liken it like we are trying to make a cultural producer an industry standard. Right now, it's not. I mean, you have cultural consultants, and how a cultural producer differs from a cultural consultant is usually bring in a consultant to just try to do a little bit of a problem. You're in there, you're going to solve this one bit of the problem of a project, and then you're out. So you're just consulting on that little bit. But what a cultural producer is, you come in with a DEI plan from start to finish. You're there to advocate for this project, for all the cultural sensitivities that might come up in that project, whether it's, can we develop this Muslim character to be more three-dimensional and then make that character, whatever the Muslim character is, authentic as you can be within the narrative, from concept development, production. We want to be that advocate all the way to the end of the project, so that the vision is seen as a complete and done. Just like a line producer. If you don't know what a line producer does, they come in and they make sure you're on budget. You have all these things that you have to check off, and they go all the way to the end of the project. I think you always need a cultural producer on staff as well for a project. So that's the term, cultural producer.
And on your website, src-partners.com, you have a section, how we do this. So this is so interesting. Who would like to kind of step through these, each of these steps for us?
I'm happy to do that. So this is sort of developed out of research that I've been doing all along for the past 20 years in different cultural spaces, both as a performer in front of the camera, as well as doing this kind of cultural production work behind the camera, and also in fine art, just putting together exhibitions and going out there and teaching about art from India, Himalaya, and Southeast Asia. So the first thing we like to do is talk to our clients and do a discovery process. Through those initial conversations with all the stakeholders, find out what it is that they're trying to achieve. And at this time, it's really important for everyone to understand that no one comes into this knowing everything. And there's no reason why a creative person, a creator, whether they're a writer, producer, a filmmaker, has to be afraid of misrepresentation and let that stunt their creativity. It's a safe space. Everyone can make mistakes. That's how we learn. And we have to extend grace to allow people to make those mistakes. So it's really helpful for someone to say, I want to write a story about these 5 different kinds of people. Of course, they're not going to be all of that, but they want to include those people in their narrative. So then how can we help ensure that those representations are going to be 360 and nuanced? So after we have those initial conversations with the client, we do our research. We figure out, okay, what is it that might be some challenges that could surface during the making of this project, even in development? What are we looking at that we need to ensure that there's going to be accurate and nuanced representation? Then if we need to, we'll go out to our partners and say, you know, we need somebody who can talk to us about this authentic experience through their own lived experience, right? Whether it's a BIPOC person, LGBTQIA+, differently abled, someone who's an intersection of all of those or several of those different kinds of identities. We bring those partners either with us back to the client, or we just go through the questions that we've surfaced already. And then finally, we go back with the client and say, these are some solutions we have for you, addressing it at every level, whether it's script analysis or set design or costumes or even casting, language, anything that could possibly get in the way of an audience member saying, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. They really didn't do their homework. Because the minute you have that unsuspension of the suspension of disbelief, then you've kind of lost your audience. And really that's what we're advocating for, right? Is a successful project at the end of the day, a successful message. So we go back with these solutions to our clients, and then we help implement them either alongside or, you know, however much they need our help, making sure that those things follow through.
Right, I muted myself. That sounds fabulous, and people can read all about it.
I thought for a second I had lost everybody and I was off in La La Land.
No, that was always presumed there's a problem. I've messed up. So SRC-Partners has this process there, and so talk to us a little bit about what are the kinds of organizations and what industries you're looking to work with, and what the initial response has been now that you're alive and out there doing the work.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've definitely have gotten people to we're reading scripts, and we're trying to give them some feedback on scripts. I feel like a big one is to look at Muslim characters and make sure they're not make them more 3-dimensional. I feel like we're working with somebody with Non-Obvious Company on their diversity summit. That's in January. I feel like So Sandhya could talk a little bit more about that. That comes in January. And, we've been doing a lot of different things and all different places.
That is so great to hear about various kinds of things that you folks are working on. And we'll talk about the summit in just a moment. Let's do what we call our global tour with people watching from all over the world and bringing their greetings. So let's say hi first to Jonathan Borstein from the East Village, where diversity is a way of life. And Jonathan has watched 251 episodes in a row. So he is a real hero of ours. And he and I are actually planning another episode. So I owe him a phone call about where we are. He's going to bring some great guests. Doug Levy is watching from Northern California, where he's also been a guest on this show. And a favorite California memory from both of you, please.
A favorite California memory?
Yeah.
Oh my God. When my cousin came to visit from India, I took her to Disneyland. And
that was my memory.
And we rode the teacups, and I was old enough to realize that if you turn that thing in the middle, you spin faster. And I think she might have gotten sick afterwards, but that's okay. It was fun while we did it.
All right, now I'm going to have to change my Disneyland. And my second favorite one was, I think, going to a conference with my friends, Chubby and Rashi, who I think are watching right now. So I'll give them a shout out. That was a good memory.
That's awesome. Vinod's watching from New Delhi, India. So,
oh my God, my homeland! Hi.
and let's see who else is here. Jody's watching from Fort Lauderdale, and Charles is excited to join you again after the 250th program. Charlie is not just a dear, wonderful family friend. He's also a sponsor of the show, and he's the author of a book about the inventor in you. Giri is watching and says, congratulations, Sandhya, and way to go. Giri I've known for almost 30 years, so it's great to connect with him. Aparna says, yes, Ruhi, nearly 2 decades too, watching from home of Deadline here in LA, specifically WeHo. So I don't know LA well enough to know. West Hollywood, is that?
Yes, I'm just guessing. West Hollywood.
Aparna says, miss my old East Village block stomping ground. And Stefan Kaplan is watching from Ramsey, New Jersey. And hi, Stefan, great to have you here. Stefan's part of our Digimentors team. Aparna says, trying to imagine what's happening him. Let's see who else is watching here. Tim is watching from Pennsylvania, and great to see you all. Hi, Tim. And he's sending a shout out to Stefan. And Jan asks a question that I'm sure comes up a lot in the diversity world. And I'll ask Ruhi this question. Do you believe in quotas? And this is a question that could be kind of open-ended and be a serious question. It could also be, a way to kind of take a shot at the kind of work you do. So we'll take it in the most positive sense of the term.
Yeah, we're going to take this as a positive sense. And I think that, I attended the virtual Toronto Film Festival just a few months ago, and they were talking about data, and how you can manipulate data to show that you're diverse. And I feel like, data is a thing that you have to really take with a grain of salt, because I think that you can say that, but we're 50% X, but it really doesn't show your diversity. So I feel like the short answer is that I probably don't believe in quotas and data. Like, I think that you have to really walk the talk and really show that you're committed to DEI, and that's not in numbers, really.
Got it. What about you, Sandhya? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I completely agree with Ruhi. In fact, I'm a member of Chief, this women's clubhouse for C-suite women, and it's a great organization. I highly recommend people who want to expand their business network to think about joining it. And I talk a lot with the women in that group about quotas and about diversity quotas specifically because it's become such a hot topic in business, right, in corporations. And it's the same thing. One woman was telling me that, you know, they were looking at their diversity numbers and they had something like whatever, 50%, 85%, whether it was Asians or whether it was women, I forget what the statistic was. And there was a tiny, 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 tiny asterisk. And at the very bottom in super fine print, it said globally. So they were taking their multinational corporation and counting in their offices in Asia to say that they were a diverse organization, whereas the numbers in America specifically were not that great. But they made it look like as a company, they're very diverse. So again, it just goes to what Ruhi was saying, that numbers, data can be played with left, right, and center. And it's really a qualitative approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion that is visible to anybody. If it's there, then you can see it. You don't have to have numbers to prove it almost. So, I mean, quotas, yeah, they're nice to have, but they create their problems of their own.
Yeah. Agreed.
Sure. Thank you. Fernando is watching from LA. He's a former guest on this show. And folks, if you're watching right now, we're live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and LinkedIn. Tag your friends right now and they can watch live or later. I know our two guests did some sharing on Facebook too, and so that's great. And then Jan now is asking again a question that we'll take in the most positive sense. Does the focus on diversity actually highlight a distinction, maybe even increase division? So Sandhya, you go first, and then we'll go to Ruhi on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to highlight distinctions. I think it's important to, no one can say that they're colorblind or that I don't see color. Anybody who says that is, well, I guess I have to use the word malarkey. You know, it's really just, that's not true. And I think it doesn't necessarily increase division in a negative way. What it does is highlight to all of us that there are people that are Black, Indigenous, people of color, people that span the gender and sexuality spectrum, and people who are differently abled. And it's important to create those distinctions so that we can say, I see you, I recognize you, and I'm going to include you specifically for who you are, and all of you, right? That's really important. And as a woman of color, I can't tell you how many times I've been looked over as if I don't even exist, or worse, been made to feel that there's nothing about me that needs to be addressed in a different manner. It's a terrible feeling.
Thank you for sharing that. Ruhi, over to you.
So, you know, I think that when you do focus on diversity and then you focus on inclusion, it's been proven that you get more productivity out of your workers because they feel seen, they're engaged. You know, I think that it doesn't, I completely disagree that it increases division. That's not a statement that I think it does. I think that it might create division only if you don't include them and you make them an outsider in the organization. That's when you start having problems. But if you actually listen and engage your workers or whoever is in the part of the project, that's when true DEI happens. So yeah,
awesome.
That's it.
Thank you. Aparna says, love this. Curious whether you've seen the Skoll Foundation CA report from last year and what you think of it. Are you folks familiar with that report?
I am not familiar with
so
this report.
Something you will read. And
we'll look it up though. We'll definitely look it up.
Aparna says, we helped fund it when I was working as a grant maker, went to the launch, and then wondered if anyone cared or took action on its findings. My dad is watching from Kerala and says, good to have me back and good to be back on the show. And Rohit is here. Rohit says, love this model. We're already paying off in our partnership to put together our non-obvious diversity summit. So let's talk all about that. I know Sandhya has lots to say about this summit. Rohit is a great friend, and everyone should check out his non-obvious webcast, non-obvious newsletter, and a terrific way of looking at the world in the non-obvious way.
Yeah, Rohit is so fabulous in what he does, and we're so excited to be partnering with him on this summit that he's putting together. He wants it to be a convening of thought leaders across all different industries, and just to come up with top 3 or top 5 tips that people can take away to help go beyond diversity in their own organizations, or at least in their own sectors. And so we are still in the throes of putting this together. It was his brainchild, of course, and we're happy to help. But it's happening at the end of January, so we've got our work cut out for us to get this all together. But we are very delighted to have the Honorable Sree Sreenivasan as one of our moderators for one of our panels. So thank you so much, Sree, for agreeing to do that. And we'll be looking at Muslims, we'll be looking at casting, we'll be looking at social justice, we'll be looking at academia. So it's really a huge range of topics.
Exciting to hear about that, and for people to know that they can learn more about this by signing up for the non-obvious newsletters and all that good stuff. Krish is watching and says, I work at Pacific Gas and Electricity in San Francisco. We start every meeting with a diversity moment. What would you recommend as good topics to address in a 3-minute D&I moment? Let's go to the lady with the degree in this and put her on the spot.
Oh my God, put on the spot. I'm like, oh gosh, a good topic. I mean, there's so many good topics, right?
First of all, have you heard of this? Like starting a meeting with a diversity moment? I think that's pretty cool.
Diversity moment. I think that's cool. I mean, like at Cornell, they were talking about every meeting you feel comfortable just saying whatever you want to say. You put it all in a Post-it note. You put everything in the kitchen sink as the ideas. And that's really creating inclusion. When you feel like you're being heard and that could be a diversity moment, maybe. I feel like that was a good way. Put all your ideas in a Post-it note, and like everybody just is able to talk, you talk about all those ideas in your, the beginning of your meeting.
Oh, that's fun. So we'll let you also, if you think of more ideas for Krish, you'll jump in.
I definitely will. I have to think about it though. I mean, I'm very bad on the spot.
Yeah. And Aparna says the Skoll CA Account Foundation Collab SIE report, which clocked in at 100+ pages. So she's posted this in the Facebook group.
Nice.
So folks, please state of SIE. I guess instead of DIE, they used SIE. I wonder what the difference is and what the S stands for. And Rohit says, thanks for the shout out. Anyone interested in Summit can register early. Look at that, nonobvious.com/diversity. Krish says, thank you to you. Fernando says, the Summit sounds phenomenal. And Aparna says, there's an excuse to catch up, Ruhi. So you guys can,
this is like a personal chat right now.
Yeah. Exactly. That's how we roll out here.
Right.
Let's keep going. And Ashish is linking to consciouslyunbiased.com. So I'd like to see what that means. And Ashok is watching from Kerala in India. Ashok, great to have you back. Fernando says he would like to connect with you folks. Paru is watching from New York City. Hello, Paru. And Ashok is complimenting my beard. I gotta say, my wife hates my beard, but she's not in Zoom calls with me all day, so we barely see each other. So so that's how I'm getting away with this. The first Zoom call she joins with me, I'll be canceled. My beard will be canceled. And Chavi says she's here. I want to ask, speaking of spouses working together, I know that Sandhya and her spouse are in different arenas and different fields. Okay. But Ruhi, you and Gitesh are amazing that you work together every day, I think for 20 years or something like that.
Yes.
What is the secret of your success? Most spouses who work together get on each other's nerves. So tell us your secrets and what you're bringing to the table that you learned in that relationship with your good friend, Pandya.
I mean, I think we keep things separate. Like Gitesh and I are really good about that. Like work is work and kids are kids. And I mean, we just went out on a date night. We try to do our Friday night date nights and, and that's separate. And we also actually really love what we do. So we're always talking about movies and theater and entertainment. So like, honestly, it doesn't feel like work to us sometimes. So I feel like that's what makes it like special and fun. And I think that that's going to be the same for me and Sandhya. It's not going to feel like work. I mean, this is something we're very passionate about. And I feel like it's important. We want to make a difference in this world. And I think through this company, we can do that.
And I will say that Ruhi and I did have an opportunity to work together when she and her sister were doing the 7-Eleven plays through their theater company, Desi Pina. So back then she asked me to choreograph a little piece for one of her plays. And that was the first opportunity we had to work together. And it went beautifully. I think it went off really well. Her casting was fantastic. Her actors did a great job. We were able to work very seamlessly together. And I think that kernel of our interaction at that time, our partnership at that time, is really what we've realized is we're able to blossom into this new iteration now.
That's awesome. Since you do mention Ruhi's sister, let's remind everyone that she was actually a guest on this show because of the play that she had written and was a guest with Kavi Ladnir. So this Rohana Mirza was with us with Kavi Ladnir on a Sunday Positivity night a few weeks ago. So let's keep going here and see some more of the comments that have been coming in. Paru says, proud of you two ladies.
Thanks, Paru.
And Doug says, someday it'll be safe to go back to Disneyland.
I hope so.
Jan is watching from Iowa. And Parna says, true, whatever quotes translates into the association is with a checkbox, which isn't the relational nature of DEI. Exactly. And Aparna is saying, yay to Chief, the company that you heard. It's a group for women that is is called Chief, and people can learn more about it. They've been doing some wonderful online events. I know my wife Rupa is a member, and she got to hear Mindy Kaling the other day. And
Gloria Steinem.
Sorry?
We had Gloria Steinem too, which was amazing because we were instead of having to hear the news about Mrs. Barrett being confirmed through the New York Times, I was able to hear it while in the room with Gloria Steinem, and it was absolutely the most amazing moment that I've had this month so far, or last month, I guess. Yeah.
Our company Steinem just this week, and we were just reflecting on the power of women like her and what they had to fight for diversity, right? Like Ruth Bader Ginsburg and John Lewis and others. Like everything that we take for granted today was something that they pioneered and fought for on behalf of all of us. They didn't fight for just women, but they fought for the value of diversity for everybody. And that's really important. We have about another 10 minutes or so with our guests, Ruhi and Sandhya. Their new company is called SRC-partners.com. Check it out. So tell us what kind of organizations you're looking to work with. Here's your chance to kind of make a pitch. Sandhya, do you want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, primarily we are looking for the numbers game. So we're really hoping to be able to work with studios, media entertainment, branding and marketing companies, organizations that have a wide reach because we also do internal communications, within companies and also nonprofits. But at the end of the day, we're just two people, and we want to make sure that we're getting the message out there. And frankly, now with everybody sitting at home with their streaming devices, a movie or even a TV show has a much wider reach. So we're hoping to be able to have a very positive impact in a very short amount of time. And if you were to ask me what our Hail Mary wish list project is, I do believe there is a Marvel movie that has a Muslim teenager at the center that maybe could use a little bit of our help. So we're happy to have a conversation. Marvel, call us.
Excellent. I love that. And we hope folks get to work on this. You mentioned, we've heard the word Muslims multiple times here. Tell us how you can help Hollywood with understanding the Muslim community. And it's not just one community, right? Like that's also something. So Ruhi, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, growing up Muslim, it was something that I don't think people really realized was different from being Hindu. I think that like as you grow up, you're just brown. And now I feel like people are understanding. At post 9/11, it was a whole thing. And so I feel like there are different Muslims. And I know that I've read scripts where they want you to, realize that Muslims they could be from Somalia, they can be from Pakistan, they could be from India, Muslims are everywhere in all the continents, and they're all different. So I think that that's understanding is happening more. And I think that people are understanding that they need to develop those types of characters more, and they need to be more three-dimensional. And that's exciting to me. That's exciting that that's finally happening. I know that my sister Rohana has been writing about Muslims for forever, it feels like. And the stories are very different. They're not your typical Muslim terrorist story, that everybody seemed to wanted to hear, or like the angry Pakistani, those aren't the stories that she tells. And so, and I think we're finally kind of moving towards that direction.
And I think what Ruhi, just to piggyback on what Ruhi was saying, and this is where the term sort of intersectionality, or the idea of intersectionality, comes in, because it's someone who is Muslim, but also like what country and social culture are they from? What is their status? Are they a business person? Are they a parent? Are they a sick child or something like that? So there's all these different aspects to a person's identity that makes them a 360 individual, not just be Muslim, but it's Muslim and, right? And we're all something and something. And so that's what we're trying to do, is create this idea that you have to look at a person from all their facets and figure out that what is it about them that gives them their motivation in a particular storyline. Their motivation isn't coming from just one thing. So let us help you figure that out.
Awesome. Chris says, Anusha and I were blessed to watch Ruhi's fantastic theater production themed on 9/11 in San Francisco when we were newly married in 2003.
So Chris, I was newly married in 2000. I was newly married in 2003 too. So Kitesh married that year as well. So thank you for coming and supporting us. That was Rohana's play called Barriers.
Yeah, awesome. Jan says, interesting discussion on Scroll. And let's see, Feroz Kazmi says, I work in the UAE and diversity in my organization is great, about 60 nationalities. Still, the interaction remains at work level and doesn't transcend to the social. The benefits of diversity will be really achieved when the social boundaries are breached. Such an interesting point. Do either of you have a reaction to that?
Yeah, I think it's so natural that our social boundaries are created around, for example, food, right? Who we break bread with is a huge indicator of our social community. And my grandparents, for example, are Jain. So their food restrictions were very different than even the Hindus and the Muslims that they lived with cheek by jowl in Delhi. I'm hopeful that we are getting there, but I'm hopeful that most places will get to a place where a table can be set for everyone, again, inclusive for everyone to sit down and enjoy part of the meal.
Great. Thank you. Tariq says, diversity is the law of nature, needs to be nurtured. That's so nice. And Kathleen says, I love that people are laughing and being so positive on Sree's show, especially today. We need more of that these days. Great topic. We need to keep diversity and inclusion going in all parts of life. I like the idea of starting a meeting with a diversity moment. So there you go. Krish, thanks for that idea. And Kathleen is picking that up. She's watching and has been a great supporter of this show. So we're glad to have her also here. And Chavi says, Ruhi has been passionate about this since I first met her almost 25 years ago. Love how she has immersed DEI into everything in her life, including films, plays, even her kids' education. Proud of you. And Rohit says, early in the pandemic, Steve Carell described the pandemic beard as sweatpants for your face. Yep, minus the comfort. It is true, it's not comfortable at all. It's just the lazy person. And my dad is saying that he is with Rupa on the beard. And Ashok, who's also watching in Kerala, is welcoming both of you to Kerala when the crisis is over. Have either of you been?
Yes, I went.
No, I haven't.
I went when I was pregnant with my first child and with Lakshman, and we took the backwater boat and we stayed at a resort, and it was one of the most beautiful, I mean, it's true, it is God's country. It is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. I cannot wait to go back. Thank you.
Yes, that's right. God's own country. We love that the ad campaign that they have. And Akruti is laughing at sweatpants for your face. So it's great to have folks here. Mark is watching from Shanghai on YouTube.
Wow.
And Jyoti says, I serve on the diversity committee at a liberal arts college in the Bay Area. Would like to connect offline. So please
Absolutely.
find Jyoti and connect with her. And a reminder again from Rohit had mentioned this before, his nonobvious.com/diversity, the summit that's coming in January. I think everyone should sign up for it, and you can sign up early. Jan says, what fiction reads would help high school AP Lit students stretch their understanding?
This is a great question. Yeah. I don't know about you, Sree. I mean, I'm sure you have a ton of recommendations in this factor, but for me, I've been trying to really understand more about the Black experience, or just, other experiences other to my own. So I think one article I read said, if you want to understand Black lives, read their magical realism. So I read Marlon James's book, Black Panther, Red Fox, and I want to read N.K. Jemisin's series next, the 3-part series that she won. Was it the Booker that she won, or I think it was the Booker she won a couple of years ago for that. So
I think Marlon also won a Booker maybe for
I keep reading all the Booker prizes, I guess. So I mean, that's I've enjoyed that, because it doesn't feel like you're homework or trying to teach yourself something. It's fun and it's exciting. And at the same time, you sort of get these bits and pieces of culture being thrown at you in a way that, I mean, who doesn't love fantasy and magic realism? But, okay, sure. Maybe some people, but.
Before, as we start to wrap up here, I'd love to hear from both of you, your own career journey. And so, Sandhya, why don't we start with you? Tell us where you went to college, kind of where you went to high school, college, and then the work that you've been doing these last couple of decades that have gotten you ready for this moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a daughter of Indian parents, immigrant parents, I was on the doctor track. My sister was on the lawyer track. My dad was the engineer, doctor, lawyer, engineer, CPA, and IT, right? Those were like the acceptable career paths. And I did go to a nerd high school, pre-med. I did take biology. I did study biology in undergrad. I also double majored in art history. And from there, I ended up getting a master's in science, microbiology and molecular genetics. So I love to read all the papers on the coronavirus, because I'm like, what's going on with this mRNA vaccine? But then I also did a dual master's in fine arts conservation and in the history of art. So I have 3 master's degrees in science and in the arts. And I had a Fulbright scholarship to India. So I did spend a year traveling and looking at private collections at museums there. After I did that, I was at Christie's for 13 years as the head of the Indian, Himalayan, and Southeast Asian art department. Then I became the executive director of a private gallery space in Chicago, where they do a very progressive social agenda alongside architecture and fine art. So I was there for about a year, and then I came back to New York, and I was like, well, what is it that I really want to do? Because I've been doing everything that I've been loving to do so far. What's my next step? And I realized all of these experiences of, being in a Bollywood dance troupe here, of singing, of dancing, of doing camera work, both in front of and behind the camera, and of constantly immersing myself in culture, I realized the next step for me logically was this.
All right. Well, yeah, I've been so proud of your work that you did, especially in the at Christie's, and that kind of you broke a barrier that even though it was South Asian art, it was mostly run by white men in all of these organizations, right? They're the experts on Asian art often, almost always. And then you and Dipanjana and others were a few South Asian women who had leadership roles in South Asian art at these big places. And that was very exciting to see. So great to hear about your journey. And you studied at Rutgers and at NYU, and 3 master's degrees. I think that's plenty. But amazing. Well done. Let's go to Ruhi.
So I guess my journey began in business. Like, I guess I went to Rutgers, got my poli-sci and econ degree, and then I thought I was gonna, go to law school. I didn't do that. I got my MBA instead. My sister was always a writer, though, and she was always into entertainment. And so me and her, when we moved to New York City in 2000, we lived together, and she was always the artist, and I was interested in it. And so, we did this theater company together, and we just produced a lot of work. I guess I've always been into like the arts and doing that and producing. So I produced a lot of theater. I produced a film with her. I produced short films. I did all that early on when I moved to the city. And then, I think that I met Hitesh and we started Box Office Guru Media. And then for the past 20 some years, we've been working on the PR side of films. So we've been working on hundreds of films on that side. And that's where and I got my DEI certification recently. And so that's about it.
That's awesome. And that's at Cornell. Yeah. So you recommend that program to other folks too?
I do. It was good. It's a good program. I have friends that are part of that program, and I think that it's a great jumping board for people.
And all remote, right?
It is. It's all remote.
Okay, great. And folks, again, please find SRC-Partners and learn more about the work of Ruhi and Sandhya. And the company, again, is Sandhya Rohi Culture Partners, and please do talk to them about their work and what they're doing. I'm just so grateful to both of you for coming and joining us here on a Friday night. We've had so many great comments, so I'd love to have. Chris says, please talk about Desi Peanut. So we'll let you do that for a minute. You've got a real fan there.
I know. I'm like, okay. Desi Peanut was, because I'm multi-hyphenated. I'm half Filipino and half Pakistani. And so is my sister. And so we decided to form Desi Peanut, the theater company. And we did a lot of shows. And we have a lot of fans. And, we loved the work we did. And it was a labor of love, and we just really enjoyed putting our work out there.
That's awesome. Mark, who's been a former guest on the show, says hello from Durham, North Carolina. And Mark was on our show talking about how we can be allies of the Black community, and was just great to have him back here. Ashok says, really proud of your work. Congrats to both of you. And Mark says, just learned today about an Asian woman who's an anchor on Cheddar. Nora Ali is her name. I follow her on Twitter. She's terrific. And Ashok is asking for that conference link that you're all working on. So do you want to just tell us again? It's nonobvious.com/diversity. And it's a summit in January. And that's being produced by this team. So it's great that that's something that folks can sign up for early already. Right. It's available at nonobvious.com/diversity. So everyone should check that out. I'm going to give them both a chance to think about their final thoughts. And while they're doing that, I'm just going to tell folks what's coming up. The weekends around here at Digimentors is busy. Our friend Stefan is hosting his Spin It Social Hour, where photographers share their work. And Joe Conzo Jr. from the Bronx is his guest tomorrow at 10 a.m. Please join him for that. And then noon to 2 Eastern is the show a radio show that's a spin-off of this program that I host. And we have 2 great guests. One is from the NYU School of Global Public Health. Danielle Ompad will be with us. Dr. Ompad is going to be talking about what's happening with COVID. And Professor Dana Hun is going to be with us, and a professor at UCLA, author of Recipe for survival. And then on Sunday morning, we have the 5th year of the New York Times Sunday Readalong, and we're very excited to have Ruth Ben-Ghiat with us, who's the author of Strong Men from Mussolini to Donald Trump. The book is called Mussolini to the Present, and talking about Donald Trump. So she'll be with us 8:30 a.m. Sunday. Every Sunday we do that. And then we have She's on Call, which is a show that are hosted by our friends Sujana Chandrasekhar and Marina Kurian, 2 surgeons. And they have 2 guests talking about COVID, vaccines, and more. A professor of infectious diseases will be with them, and a virologist. So please join them Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern on Facebook, Twitter. Please follow at She's on Call. And then the next episode of my show will be on Monday night. We'll be having another In Diaspora community conversation, and we're going to be talking to In Diaspora's poets and authors. And our guests are going to be Maya Ajmera, Arun Kumar, VR Feroz, and the amazing Dr. Priya Natarajan, an astrophysicist at Yale, who is an amazing fan of the world of culture, is going to be my co-host. So please join us for that on Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. So that's the next episode of our global program. So with that, I'm going to go back to our guests and ask them for their final thoughts. Sandhya, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I actually have 3 final thoughts. First of all, Sree, I want to say thank you for all the work that you've done in promoting diverse voices across all of your work in journalism, at Saja, at your current role at Digimentors. The fact that you've elevated and heightened how many women are on your shows is truly remarkable. And I want to thank you so much for doing that kind of work. And I'm so excited about Dr. Natarajan for Monday because I love astrophysics. So now I'm going to definitely be watching your show on Monday night. I'm fascinated with all of that. And then in terms of last words about us, well, again, we want to emphasize that as cultural producers, we're here to help ensure success of any narrative. We want to create safe spaces for creators to do whatever they feel, write whatever they want, say whatever they say, and to do so knowing that everyone is giving each other grace to make mistakes. So the only way you're going to learn is to make a mistake and to ask someone for their help in how to make it better. And I think especially now as we transition to a new administration, as we have a whole series of changes coming up over the next few months, allowing each other the space and the grace to make mistakes and to learn from them in a gentle way is going to really help us all move forward. And I'm so thankful to be on your show. Thanks.
Well, that's beautifully put. Thank you. And thank you for those kind words. Please follow src-partners.com. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and on the web. And please do connect with them. Go ahead, Rohi, over to you.
Sure. I just want to reiterate that thank you so much. I mean, it's been amazing. And I think what you're doing is really amazing things here with everything you do, Sree. And I mean, I'm not the talker of the pair here, so I'm going to keep it short. But, thank you so much. It's been great. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. And I hope that everybody signs up for that summit in January, nonobvious.com/diversity. Keep an open mind. Some of those panels are going to be amazing. There's just so many different panels there, and I think that's the biggest thing to take away for diversity is that you have to just keep an open mind. I love that he just put up SRK.
I couldn't bring SRK to surprise you. I'd like to do that. I couldn't manage that. But this is that show you helped me put together with our friend Asim Chabra, and you can see it has 288,000 views. That video clip. So anybody's Googling this can find it. It was an amazing conversation, and I know my son, who's a big fan of SRK. I went up in his estimation when he was able to watch a recording of this conversation. But I do want to. So this is something for Ruhi, but I also have something I want to show for Sandhya. But you were about to say
God.
something, and when I
I
interrupted,
just wanted to give one last shout out because I
Sure.
know that I said I gave birth 3 weeks before C-section, and I did have 2 really good friends with me to help me out that day, and that was my friend Chubby, who and my friend Rashi. I wanted to give that last shout out to them. They did help me that day.
Therefore you were able to help pull off that event with Ajol and SRK, which is amazing.
Yes.
And then this is a photo that I have to show Sandhya because she mentioned Gloria Steinem. So this is a fun photograph.
That's awesome.
God, Sree, you look the same.
Oh yeah, of course, exactly the same. You're such a liar. This is when I had hair, when I had black hair. And Gloria's amazing. She looks incredible.
She looks the same. Yeah.
And she was great. But this was the event. So this was backstage at the event, and I was thrilled. This was an event we did with Sakhi, another amazing organization. Saja and Sakhi did this event in 1995. And this was one of our first events that Saja did. And so here we are 25 years later, and just lucky that to be able to do that event. So thank you both. Delighted to have you with us. And we are encouraging everybody to check out src-partners.com. And also please check out nonobvious.com/diversity. And with that, we'll say goodbye to everyone and see you all Monday at our next